to our kaupapa. E aku rangatira e ngā manuhiri, ngā mihi nui ke katu katoa. Nau mai, haere mai ki te pai tukutuku o Concove, ko he Ruku Hohonu, a more effective role model of support for Māori level 4, a carpentry apprentice, reducing the time it takes to get qualified. Ko George Makapatama ahau, kai whakahaere tuarua o Concove. Welcome everybody. It's truly my privilege as the Deputy Director of Concove to welcome you all on behalf of our Executive Director, Catherine Hall, who was unfortunately can't be here with us here today, but also on behalf of our team, board and advisory groups who have made this all possible for us here today. So warm greetings once again to each and every one of you who have tuned into this webinar today. But before we proceed very quickly, please allow me the opportunity to provide a brief introduction to Concove for those who might be new to our kaupapa and might be new to us all here today. We are the Construction and Infrastructure Centre of Vocational Excellence, and we connect and align industry learners, vocational education to reimagine clear and equitable and supported career pathways within construction and infrastructure sector. Also in this respect, we apply a systems change approach that explores key conditions required for meaningful systemic change. This particular research project, like many we have funded, has resulted from our contestable funds process, where you, the sector, the community, have come to Concove with research ideas for meaningful change. And together, as we'll demonstrate shortly, we have paved the way for the knowledge to be unearthed and shared with the sector. Before I hand you over to Jamie and Tui to introduce themselves and proceed with our webinar, I also would like to hand this opportunity over to our very own Dr. Carly Taffet, who is the project manager for this portfolio, because she's been the one sort of doing the weaving on the side, beside wherever she was needed to be. So no reira, no mai haere mai, kia ora koutou.
Kia ora, thank you, Makapatama. I just wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge Tui and Susan, who is unwell, so won't be at this presentation, and Jamie for their mahi on this project. It's been a real privilege to walk alongside them. I didn't have to do a lot of work. They did a lot of work themselves. Sorry, of course they did the work themselves, but they did most of the mahi themselves. I just rode on their coattails and enjoyed the glory. But just referring back to referring back to last October when we had a meeting at Welltech, and my comments there, I'm really proud to be a part of this and to be able to introduce Tui and Susan, who actually won an award from Welltech for their mahi on this work, and was supported so well by Jamie. So if I could introduce Jamie, Tui, and recognise that Susan is unwell but would be here giving her kōrero as well. So if I could hand over to Jamie and Tui. Thank you.
Kia ora, Jamie.
Tēnā tātou huri nui tēnā tū i te tuakana e Tui. Mihi mō tō tūranga i tēnei rā ki taku tuahine ki Susan. Ka rere aku mihi ki aia i tēnei wāpauri ki tōna māwiwitanga. Ko Jamie ihi maira smaila tōku ingoa, uri ahau no te tai rāwhiti ki te whānau kai rongo whakāta te aitanga mahaki hoki. Ka rere aku mihi ki ngā koutou ki Concove, ki Makapatama, ki Kylie, Nina, Wayne, ki koutou mā. Ka hari taku nā kau ki te kitea ki a koutou ki te mahi a tēnei mahi. Kia ora tātou. Ka tuaki taua ki tēnei rā ki te whakautu ngā taunaki pe pāna ki tēnei mahi rangahau. Nā reira, nau mai hara mai ki a tātou huri no te motu mai ngā hau e whā, mā ngā tai e whā, ki te tai whakarongo, ki te tai whakararo, tai atu ki te tai o te moana nui a kiwa, tēnā tātou katoa. Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming today and to our presentation on our research at Mahi Rangahau on Māori carpentry, Māori carpentry level 4 qualifications. My name's Jamie Smiler. I'm from the East Coast of New Zealand, and my role at the moment is the Director of Rangahau Research for Te Pūkenga. But when we did this research, I was the Kōrari Rangahau for Wautika and Whitireia. Today, our sister Susan is unwell, so she won't be able to join us. So Tui will lead us off after he introduces ourselves. And then I'll give us a bit of a breakdown of how the session's going to go. Kia ora, kahuri te rākau, ia koe i hoa.
Kia ora, nau taranga tira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I think you've said it all, Jamie. I don't think I have to carry on. Beautifully said. And so pleased to be here today. I must say I'm nervous. I'm nervous with Susan not being here. She normally fills in my gaps and keeps me on track. So I may go sideways here and there, people. But bear with me. But it is fantastic to be here today. So kia ora.
And I'll drive the sides for us to eat, so you just tell me where to click through.
Kia ora. Yeah, well, you know, we've thanked our partnership between Concove, Te Kōrari Rangahau as well, which is based here at Welltech. Jamie being part of that team, so a big thank goes out and acknowledgement to them all. We acknowledge the expertise of our research team, our akonga Māori, our whānau, our kaiako, our kaiwhakawhiwhi mahi, our iwi down here of Te Atiawa and Ngāti Tō Rangatira. And we're also supported from our wider research team, our transcribers, designers, our Tamaiti Whāngai team here, which I'll speak about shortly. But as a first-time researcher, you know, these transcribers, man, they're worth their weight in gold. So fantastic, fantastic to get to know how the process, you know, how it works. So kia ora to everyone.
So I'll give us a bit of rundowns at what to expect today, and we're going to start off with a bit of background to the project. What are some of the things that drew us to the research question and the topic? This project resulted in two key outputs for Concove, and one was a literature review, which I'll talk about. The literature review is called He Arotake Ngā Mata Kōrero. So at the end, if anyone wants a copy of this, I can send it through to you. And the second output was called He Ruku Hohonu, which was a deep dive into what the people said. That looks at 5 distinct groups of experts. So we have akonga Māori is the first group. The second group is our kaiako. Our third group is our kaiwhakawhiwhi mahi, our employers. The fourth group being iwi, and the fifth group being whānau of our akonga. So we looked at what these 5 groups of experts said around what do they think can be changed, or how can we better support akonga Māori to progress to the level 4 apprenticeships in a more timely kind of way. And I think what most people here for is ngā hua, what are the fruits of our mahi. So we'll talk a bit about the findings and our taunaki, some of the recommendations that perhaps you can take into your organisations or to your area of work and apply them. And at the end, we'll wrap up with some time for questions, some pārtai. So I think, George, are you going to take the Q&A towards the end for us? And then we'll, whakakapi will finish off at the end. Any final remarks or questions or challenges or for all of us to take away going forward? Okay. I'll hand the rākau back to you, Tui.
Yes, I guess we look at where it all begins, and these are some numbers that we found along our journey. It's in 2018, 2,445 Māori began their apprenticeships. But up until 2024, after 4 years, we only had 584 of those that were successful. And you see 601 were still engaged, with 1,296 no longer pursuing a building apprenticeship. Now, we've just looked at our students since 2016, and a very similar number. So we look at 2016, we have 75 students. We're now down to 39 that are no longer in study. And we've only had 16 complete to date. So which runs very much along those lines, sitting around that 11 to 12% success rate, which we all sit here and go, hey, that's not good enough. We sat around the table, had a kōrero, Dave Lomax, Henny Moore, Rangi Luke, our Te Maiti Whāngai team. So we had that conversation, and the thing with that conversation around these numbers is that it was coming from a caring space. I think that's really, really important from our team. So if we move along, Jamie, next slide. The timatanga. Okay, so this is once again, we're talking about where did our rangahau come from. Okay, so we get underway with this kōrero, and both me and Susan, after our kōrero with Jamie, we were able to attend the Otago Polytechnic for their Māori Research Symposium. And we'd like to think that we will head back there as well, just to finish things off, because that's where it begins. And I was speaking to like-minded Māori researchers at this stage. When we spoke here at the symposium, we made it quite clear that we were not researchers. We were coming from more of our background is in youth work. And also prior to that, our life was in the trades, and also a number of our team at Te Maiti Whāngai do come from the trades. So that's where it all begins. So from that, after we've had our kōrero down south, we come back here, more kōrero takes place, more work needs to be done, and that's how we get in touch with Jamie again. And we get ourselves underway with the rangahau in this space and what can be done. So if we move along again, Jamie.
And just to add to what Tui said there is just adding what is my personal connection to this kaupapa and topika. I'm one of those failed builders. I'm one of those people who have gone through a younger life, having worked in the sector, and not come out with the qualifications maybe that I could have. And so I'm drawn to this question in particular about how can we get people through these qualifications? How can we get our akonga Māori through? Because I have a strong belief that these qualifications, and especially this one being a terminal one for this sector, helps to unlock a huge number of positive life outcomes for people. I come from a building family. My grandfather was a builder, my father was a builder, and then when I went off to university, and then I finished university, and then I became a builder, but I was an unqualified builder, and I never ended up getting my qualifications. And it's something that if the system had been set up a little bit better, that I would have achieved those qualifications alongside the other things that I've done. So having a bit of personal experience in this area and seeing the transformative effects of friends and whānau who have achieved these kind of qualifications, help them to achieve, and then also seeing friends and whānau who don't achieve these qualifications and how this has impacted their life outcomes too. So I just wanted to bring that kind of kōrero to this kaupapa on this day, so everyone kind of understands my background in this kaupapa. So I've got a little bit of the boring bit. I've got to get through some of the technical stuff that we've done for this research before I hand it on to my tuakana to talk about some of the hua and some of the recommendations. So part of this research is we started off by doing quite a comprehensive literature review. And the literature review hasn't been done to relitigate things that we already know, to bring up things that we know already, but it's been done to guide us in the further parts of our research, so we can be a bit more targeted about how we conducted the second part of the research, which I'll talk about. So the first publication from this project was Arotakunga Mata Kōrero, or literature review. And what we did is we looked at the past 15 years, and we looked at how many articles or how much research is out there that has been done over the past 15 years that looks at Māori success with the primary focus on the construction infrastructure sectors, carpentry, then more broadly into trades, and then more broadly into Māori success through education. And there is a distinct dearth of research in this area, so it's a huge gap that we have. When we look at this, we can't find the literature to guide us in the way that we should be able to find the literature to guide us on things that we can do. And so it was a type of systematic literature review where we classified the literature into three groups. The three groups were whakamana, whakakaha, and whakahihi, and we based on their relevance to our question around how can we improve the time it takes for Māori carpentry apprentices to move through this level 4 qualification. In the most impactful set of literature, the whakamana, we found 39 articles, and of that 39 we summarised 15 of the most important. So if you have time to read the literature review, there's a summary of 15 of those articles in there. But what we did is we synthesised all 65, and those 65 guided us, and we 9 distinct kaupapa emerged, which I'll share with you today. The first of the things that synthesised out of this literature was that Akunga Māori success is because of this sense of strong sense of identity, culture, and whakapapa, not despite of it. The second thing we found was Māori possess the most potent interventions and solutions to the underperformance of carpentry education for Māori. The third one is that dynamics with the industry create counter forces that do not encourage productive core practices, teaching and learning practices. The fourth one was around racism hegemony and colonisation are very much alive in the structures and the way that the sector is organised and within the cultures of the industry. So these are quite confronting things to hear, but this is what our literature was telling us. The fifth one was mental models need shifting so that Akunga Māori believe as a given that they will be successful. These things create barriers at the moment. The sixth thing we found was practical interventions and responses need to account for sector capability and capacity constraints. So there are good intentions and people generally want to do really good things, but we are constrained by the capacity and capability of our sector. Effective pastoral care and mentoring services are very difficult to deliver, but they're critical to success. So that was a big thing that came out from the literature. It's an area that needs to be done better, and it's really important, but it's very difficult to do it well. The 8th one is there's a dearth of research into the efficacy of carpentry and trades education for Māori. That means research-informed approaches must be taken to the design of ako delivery and support model development. So within this kaupapa and more broadly within vocational education, there is no large-scale or very few large-scale empirical studies to guide us. So as there is in some of the compulsory sector parts of the education system. We don't have that information there to help guide us. And the 9th one was interventions that are not specifically designed to meet the needs of akonga Māori perform poorly for akonga Māori. So general approaches and interventions don't seem to work very well in the long term, was what the literature was telling us. So it's really interesting reading the literature because there are lots of things going on, but there's also very little empirical research, evidence-based stuff out there for us to guide us to what we should be doing. So that was the first output of the research. And like I said, if anyone wants a copy, we can send you a copy. And then the second part is was we went out and we talked to the key stakeholders in this relationship. And this report is called He Ruku Hohonu, what the people said. And I'm just going to briefly share with you how we did it in our analysis framework, and then we'll talk about some of the findings and the recommendations. So the second piece of research is kaupapa Māori theory approach was taken, and the methodology and the methods that we used in this research. And I'll explain a little bit in a second about what that means. But essentially, we went out and talked to what we classify as expert informants. So they're our akonga Māori. These are our kaiako that teach them. These are our iwi stakeholders who are there to support them within the community and at their home. Whānau, which are there's a whānau definition of the people who support our akonga and our kaiwhakawhiwhi mahi, or our employers. And so we looked at those 5 groups of people and we asked them questions about, what are the things that you think will make a difference to how akonga Māori are supported in their carpentry apprenticeship to make sure that they have the best chance of completing their qualifications in a timely kind of way. And so we used kaupapa Māori theory analysis framework. So we took Graham Smith's Smith's framework for kaupapa Māori theory. In its base form, there are 6 elements to this. Tino rangatiratanga, which is a principle about self-determination and agency. And the second one is taonga tuku, which is about cultural aspirations and gifts. Third one is around ako Māori, which is a culturally preferred ways of learning or pedagogies. The fourth one was around kia piki ake ngā raruraru o te kāinga. This is a principle around social economic mediation, or around how people can be socially, culturally and financially supported during their studies. Whānau, which is about the extended family principle. And number 6 was the kaupapa, the collective philosophy. So what is the thing that ties us all together? What is the goal? A little bit about what the why is. What is that glue that holds it together? And so what we did is we asked these people these questions, and we looked to see where these principles were evident in what they were talking about, or where they were missing, to help us to inform about our taunaki, our recommendations in the end. So we know from a lot of kaupapa Māori research within education, and most of that has been done within compulsory schooling, say that if these principles are evident and strong, it creates a really positive learning environment for akonga, and it increases their chances of being really successful. So we're kind of going, okay, this is what a good system should have in it. What things are evident in the system, or what things are missing, and so how can we create some recommendations to strengthen that? So that's the less exciting methodological stuff. but the stuff that I think is really interesting. But we'll pass over to Tui, and Tui can tell us a bit more about some of the things that we found in the discussions.
Kia ora, Jamie. So just if we go back to what you said, George, around making meaningful change, this is where it all begins for us with tino rangatiratanga. Our akonga spoke about self-determination, health and well-being, and celebrating success. Now, celebrating success comes up nearly the most out of everything from our akonga. Okay, as we go along, it will pop up again. We don't do it very well. Yeah, we got to be better at doing it and celebrating, the little milestones and those big milestones of completing their national certificate. But that's a long time, between drinks for a lot of our akonga. So we just need to make sure that we do celebrate those little things. Whānau spoke around mastery. Now, obviously they're coming from a different generation, and they're talking about when the akonga become builders, they want them to become the best builders. This is what Whānau spoke about. They don't just want them to be a builder. They want them to be the best. So that was awesome that came out of here. Iwi spoke about relationships, the glass ceiling, clear pathways, just making sure that, the word glass ceiling there, the metaphor there is, we're not getting our Māori into management positions in the construction space. We know it sits around 5% of all management positions. It's sitting at 5% for Māori. Okay, it's not good enough. We need to make those clearer pathways for them, whatever space that we are working in. Kaiako spoke about a holistic support, and our Kai Whakawhiwhi Mahi spoke around empowering our Māori youth and empowering the Māori on worksite. But I'll speak about that shortly because it does come up again. Kia ora, Jamie.
Add one more thing to that, Tui. So all these things that Tui's talking about is how do we develop these self-determining and agency principles within people, and through some of these things that people have talked about, that's how that could be achieved. So just so you connect the theory framework with some of the findings.
Kia ora. Tonga tuku iho. Okay, so akonga spoke about whakawhanaungatanga, and what they're meaning there is that peer support. Okay, so when they leave on a level 3 course, or when they head into a level 4 block course, they want to stay connected. And how does that look for them? It's Facebook. It's the internet. It's that's what they want. They want to stay connected with each other during their learning from start to finish. I know myself, I'm a butcher by trade. I know going through the trades, I'm still connected, to other tradesmen that went through that same year as me. And that's that peer support, which is so important. And without the block courses, that does get missed. Kaiakos, they spoke about manaki, working together, guiding each other, looking after each other, all that good stuff. So that's, and just staying together, once again, it was around staying connected. Kai Whakawhiwhi Mahi spoke about identity as Māori. So the employers spoke around Māori, being able to be Māori on the worksite. And what does that look like? Okay, it came across pretty simple. Hey, let them listen to Te Atiawa Toi every now and then. And let them wear their hoodie every now and then. Let them bring their kai, their Māori kai, along. Just doing some little simple things on the day to day. Okay, so it didn't get a whole lot in the space, but that's what we got. They made it quite clear.
it was quite interesting too that we didn't find much here in this area. And our thinking behind this reason why this principle wasn't so strong is that a lot of our workplaces or our learning environments aren't designed in a way to be and aren't designed for Māori learners first, so it makes it difficult to see these things. But we know from the other research and literature stuff that if you can create a Māori environment, it's more conducive to more educational success for Māori learners. So this is we'll talk about this more this in the findings too.
Yeah. So ako for Māori. So akonga hono mai mentoring. So if we just look at what BCITO right now have set up for Māori and Pacifica youth, is where they run a night class, a mentoring system where there are 3 mentors there and a couple of tutors there. So they're welcoming the akonga back on site to do the extras. So that happens every second Wednesday, from what I understand. I could be wrong there. But it's a fantastic night and a fantastic system that they've got going in and got running there. And once again, that's asking for what the akonga have asked for, to stay in touch with each other, that whakawhanaungatanga. So really important there, and they've got that underway. Whānau spoke around kōrero, and one of the reasons that came up was I spoke to a family on an issue with one of their akonga. Like, I knew exactly where their young person was. And then the question came back to me was, well, how do you know all of this and we don't? So that kōrero needs to be happening between, whānau need to be in there also with our employers and with our akonga as well, and not left out. Iwi spoke about partial care, and we know how important it is, and Jamie touched on that earlier on. Marae-based learning, positive reinforcements. If I just touch back on our partial care, just around level 4 students, we know that we've put a little bit of extra work into our level 4 program last year, and we already know that our numbers are going to be better just by doing something small on a Monday night. We know it works. It's simple as.
Aroha mai tui. Sorry, team. I know there's a hand up. We do have a question time after this presentation. I think just to ensure that there is a flow and we have enough time. Unless, of course, Jamie and Tui, you want to break protocol, but we have dedicated question time, please, for afterwards to allow the kōrero to flow through. So thank you. Aroha mai, Tui.
Kia ora, kia ora. Kai ako, they spoke about learning support and unequal settings. Now, why they said that is that I know here in our own space here, learning support starts at 8:30 in the morning and they finish at 4:30 at night. Well, the problem with our level 4 students, when they're returning after 4:30. So why isn't this provided for those level 4 students? The learning support staff have already gone home for the day. Commercial versus residential. A lot of our students don't understand the difference between commercial and residential. They don't know what they're getting involved in. So I think a lot more understanding in this space would be so much better, where in communication, and there are information gaps in this space, and we need to be putting that out there, whether it's even at secondary school level. Numeracy and literacy, we spoke about the styles that came up a couple of times. Having our students, find out the style of learning, what's best for them, and obviously kānohi ki te kānohi was still coming strong from kaiako, but also comes from our akonga as well, even though that we're living in a day of the internet. They are asking for kānohi ki te kānohi. Now, my generation, we enjoyed kānohi ki te kānohi, but this generation, for whatever reason, they're missing out on it. And then our kaiwhakawhiwhi mahi, ako, just a learning, just wanted to continue the learning. Jamie? Ke piki ake I ngā raruraru o te kāinga. Okay, akonga, okay, pūtia. We know that the young people are always going to have trouble, early on with the money situation. Transport, misinformation and poor advice. Now, if I just touch on transport there. So when we're talking about transport, we know that without a driver's license, it becomes a real barrier. Now, as a job broker here at Welltech in Whitireia, the last people to get employed are always going to be those without a driver's license. Okay. And then transport, the cost of transport, whether they're catching a bus or train or whether they're taking their own car, there's petrol, there's maintenance. We all know this because this is the age group that we're in, but for our young ones struggling for all those payments, we need to make sure that we're helping out there wherever we possibly can. Misinformation and poor advice, they are getting a whole lot of it. We have a number of students, and as you can see, 39 of our students have left apprenticeships. We just walked away from them. That's ridiculous. It's a great thing to have an apprenticeship, but a lot of times it's because of poor advice from whānau, family, uncles, aunties, just giving them bad advice. They'll shoot down to Christchurch, but they got to take the young person with them, and it's like, ooh, hey, leave them behind. They've only got a year to go in their time, but they take them away, and it's that's the raru. Iwi, inequitable opportunities to progress. So we just spoke a little bit about that, about the glass ceilings. Education and qualification are important. So once again, iwi have put it out there, really important for that qualification. And they want to be involved in that. Our iwi want to be involved in that. Kaiako learning support versus teaching, well, we just spoke about that as well. That came up. Once again, so the reason behind this is that for our level 4 students, it's not covered in their fees. So that's why they don't have a learning support tutor there for them. But how good would it be if there was learning support there for them, or if we made it available for them on a Friday? But we will touch on that later on as well. Kai whakawhiwhi mahi, whakawhanaungatanga, and sometimes they spoke about our Māori students being whakamā on the work side as well. Okay, kia ora. Well, whānau, the akonga spoke about whānau. Now, there's a couple of whakawhanaungatanga, once again, staying connected, tailored learning. But one of the other things, and it's not there with whānau, with the whānau that we spoke to, they were unsure, the akonga were really unsure around the whānau support, to where it started and where it ended when they became apprentices. So they were like, ooh, they were unsure where whānau sat. Okay.
Can I add a little bit there too?
Yeah, sure.
There's quite an interesting dynamic here where we know that whānau support is a good thing, but then you put the relationship between the employer and the apunga and the whānau together. There's a very unusual relationship within our the way that we generally organise our socially. It's very unusual to have someone's parent or their whānau member engaged in the employment relationship, and but in some ways the whānau wanted to be involved, but the apunga were like, no, we've grown up. We don't want our parents or our uncles or our grandparents to be involved in this relationship. But whānau generally coming from this nurturing space where they could see an opportunity to help the apunga and the employer with that relationship. But culturally, it's not a normal thing to do in New Zealand at the moment. But we can see the benefits of maybe applying a lens where we make this a little bit more normal.
Yeah, absolutely. So iwi, so we spoke to Taku Parai out at Ngāti Toa. Now with his little whakatauki there, so meaning they're looking back, for us to go forward into the future, really important. We looked at Māori trade training with his kōrero. He spoke so well of what, about his days of growing up in Porirua. And having a real lens for the past for us to go forward. And kai whakawhiwhi mahi, whānau working with employers, well, they put their hand up to say, hey, we do need a closer relationship with employers, because right now there's not a lot happening there right now. Okay.
And last slide here, whānau.
Kaupapa. See, I'm really missing my mate Susan today. Normally she'd be every second slide, so I'm listening to my own voice coming. I'm like, oh no, talking too much. But akonga, and this surprised us, was it takes a village to raise a child. Now, then we all know that saying, but this was actually coming from the akonga. And this is what they want, and I guess that's where that peer support comes from, that whakawhanaungatanga is coming from. It's so important. Whānau goal setting. So goal setting, when it came to whānau, they spoke about whether it was the smallest of goal setting to whether it was, hey, completing their national certificate in level 4, but really setting goals as they move through. Now, it's no different to myself when coming through my time. Every 6 months, if you turn up to your block course, you passed your block course or whatever that looked like, you got a little bit of a monetary gain. You went up 50 cents an hour, and there was just little goals. Because when I looked at this, it was something that I hadn't thought of while I was a young fella. But actually those little goals of going to block course, getting a booklet done, mean a lot, because it kept you on track. So goal setting really important there for whānau. Iwi then we're looking at capacity and capability, as they should, and turning off the tap. So that was really important for Ngāti Toa, looking at it from a Māori lens, and employing Māori, educating Māori while they are working. That was really important for the iwi. Kai whakawhiwhi mahi, quality versus quantity tension. So either bums or seats getting more in through the door, or really, is it really quality? Do we want to be teaching it? We go back to it being an art form. Teaching them that next step, instead of mastering the building trade. and make it like an art form. I'm talking out loud now. I've probably talked too much, but yeah, kia ora for that.
Well, it's good timing there too, because we've just gone through those 6 slides.
Yeah, fantastic.
And we came up with 9 recommendations based on the findings from those 6 slides. But this might be a good chance to pause just for a minute or two to see if anyone wants to ask any questions before we talk about the recommendations.
Ka pai, Jamie.
Yeah, sorry, Sister Tracy Lee, would you?
Kia ora. Ko Tracy Lee tuku ingoa he te ringahanga akau ki Waihanga Araro. So I'm a qualification developer with Waihanga Araro and really familiar with the carpentry qualification and pathways. Just one question I have is the scope of the research that you've undertaken, and I have a lot of respect and really value what you've talked about today. I think it's fantastic to hear that you have gone out there and you've talked to the families and the whole wraparound group for the learners, for the apprentices. My question is really, did the scope of your research include the other providers who have carpentry apprentices, or was it just the Whitireia and Welltech cohort that you were dealing with? What was that? Because your numbers talked about thousands, but I know that there are large numbers of apprentices. Yeah.
So I could add to that one for you, Tracy, if you like.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the second study, the interviews, has been with apprentices that gone through NZMA or New Zealand Managed Apprenticeship or the New Zealand Apprenticeship Pathways. So inside and outside of the campus-based, work-based learning. So we're very intentional about recruiting participants that represented all parts of the system. Some of the numbers we've talked about, national numbers, some of the numbers talked about earlier are our local numbers, and they just kind of reflect the kind of reasons why we got into the research in the first place. That identifying that problem that was there, and then looking a bit more deeper into the system results and seeing, and then that drew us into the questions and the methodology we've used.
Great, thank you. That clarifies that for me. Cheers.
Te Arani, over to you. You got your hands up.
Ai, kia ora.
Yeah.
I better take my hand down now. Koutou hui mai nei tēnei rā, he kaupapa tino whakahirihira ki a hau. Ko Ngāti awa te iwi. So I'm pleased to have received the invitation and to join this hui. Māori trade training in particular has memories for me as a child growing up, because my father was quite instrumental in Māori trade training of days gone by. That is in the late 50s, 60s, 70s. And what we're talking about is here today is the revitalisation of what was undertaken then, when they had huge numbers of Māori who were in the business of training, and who 60 and 70 years later, if there's any of them still alive, who said that it was the best thing that ever happened to them, is the nature of the discussion which is going here right now. And so, one, I'm pleased to hear the kōrero, pleased to participate, and thank you for the invitation. But I think in the pathway we have lost racial equity when it comes to institutional involvement we have lost a pathway, but this discussion again, I reiterate, that the mindset is in the right place. So the big question is, how do we now get on with it and engage with it? Because we can talk all we like. Our kids are waiting. And that's the bottom line about the comment that I have to make. And thank you all for being here. Kia ora. By the way, my particular area has been in education, and I wrote a doctoral thesis with my identity totally intact from start to finish. That ultimately is what Māori learners kind of crave, or who will succeed as Māori in trade training as well. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora.
Kia ora whaia.
Rani.
He tika tau, I kōrero pono tērā. I suppose this will get to the next bit about how do we move on from here. And so there's some tonos for us and us individually and collectively, which we need to pick up. And we can talk about that. Was there any other questions?
Just on that note, Ehoa, just in the interest of time, because we might not get to pause again, please fire away your questions in the Q&A, because what we might otherwise do is, Jamie, Tui and Susan, also Carly and ourselves may be able to come back to you, because, if we could have more time for kōrero, which I don't think we will have whānau, that would have been the preference. But otherwise, don't be shy to chuck in your questions now, and we will endeavour to respond if within the time frame. Otherwise, Jamie, if that's all right, we can return that pānui to people afterwards, so we can continue.
We'll split these up too. I'll go through the first 5. You go for the next ones, eh?
Yeah. Probably if I just quickly on this is that of the 9 here, we are looking at all 9 must stick together. So they come as a package, not as individuals.
Yeah. So the first one is we talked a bit about is about celebrating akunga success. So this is not something that's saved up for the end of the qualification. It's a thing that happens all along the way as they succeed. Second recommendation was about clarifying pathways for continuing education. So this is a big information piece here for akunga. The third one is about strengthening our kanohi ki te kanohi delivery. They talked about this being a preferred pedagogy, but there's some strengthening of what is delivered needs to occur. The fourth one is to integrate marae infrastructure into the support and delivery of qualifications. And there's at least with the group that we worked with, a strong appetite and desire to take stronger control and have more autonomy and a bit more tino rangatiratanga over the support and delivery of these things. And the fifth one is about communicating better with whānau. So there is a bit of an information gap, and whānau play a pivotal role in supporting akunga. And if they don't have the right information, it can be more difficult for them to support the young people that they're trying to support. Tui?
Yeah. Establish peer support infrastructure. Well, that can be as simple as Facebook. Okay, that's how simple that is. Establish a clear timeline for tracking progression. A lot of our kids, a lot of our akunga don't know where they are when it comes to their study. They don't know what they've passed. And making sure that that is clear for them so they know exactly where they are on a weekly basis. Increase access to academic learning support. We know that. We've spoken about that. Provide comprehensive mentoring and wraparound support, which we can see a little bit of it starting to happen, but we obviously need a lot more of it.
And I think we've had a success, Makatama, because there was about 60 people at the start, and there's about 60 people here now.
I agree. We probably but before we wrap up, whānau, maybe if there is a burning question, like I said, I do encourage you to engage with us, and any questions definitely most welcome. But we have a bit of time. Time for one more question. Any pānui? Jamie, anything else?
I suppose it's important at this stage to just highlight a couple of things. Is that this project here, these first two pieces, were originally were part of a bigger study. So the idea of this research in Rangahau is actually, like you say, FIRE, is to actually go out and use some of the stuff, and to move on from the kōrero to some more tangible outcomes. And so what we wanted to do, well, the next part of the study is to go out and use this knowledge, use this mātauranga in the delivery of these qualifications. And so what we would really like to be able to do is to do this, look at these interventions and see how we can integrate them into the delivery of this program in different settings. So in an urban setting, in a regional or rural setting, to see how effective these things are. So we've heard from the people when they told us what they want. Now we need to know if what they said is going to work. And so that's the next part of the study, is to go out and to get a good cohort of people across many locations and embed some of these principles into the program design in those areas to see what difference it actually makes. Because at the moment, we've talked about what people want. Now we need to go out and see, you know, if we make these changes, what actually happens. Yeah.
Jamie, there is a question in the chat from Natasha Manuel. How much research was done with the industry with regard to apprenticeship Māori?
Does that person just want to jump on and just explain the question?
Natasha, you still on?
You want me to turn camera? No te teko, and we run the Learn While You Earn program, and also what we were actually thinking about is what the whare the akonga want, but pehea nā kaimahi, nā Pākihi, you know, the Māori businesses that are asked to support an apprentice, because there's some market things that can happen to a builder in order to continue their apprenticeships. And, you know, and I was still, you know, awesome. But we all of us in Te Ao Māori, we all look at whanaungatanga, kaitiakitanga, pastoral care, nā kaihautu ke tērā. And pehea te Pākihi Māori, there are builders here down in the Eastern Bay of Plenty, or Bay of Plenty, who are, you know, involved with papakainga housing. There's heaps of mahi, heaps. Where is the support for our akonga in that spaces in terms of the Māori builders who are taking them on? Because it is happening. Absolutely, everything that you've put there is applied. But there's something else that's that could be a driver against that, or a barrier, and that's the industry itself with the fall in building consents. You know, and just you know, pehea tō o whakaro. Mō tērā.
So there's another piece of work which George and Concove are doing, which I had designed, talked about, was around the policy settings and the broader system. And so there are some things out there which are creating counter forces in the broader policy settings. So there's things like the Mana and Mahi program, the TTAF funding, which is gone now, but I think we mapped 11 different policy interventions owned by at least 5 different government agencies that were essentially trying to achieve the same thing, which was better employment and educational outcomes for Māori in the construction sector. Some of them were helpful, some of them were unhelpful, and there was no rhyme or reason or rationality around why they had been designed in that kind of way. So, but in this particular piece of research, we talked to Māori businesses and Māori employers, but the bigger system stuff in the sector wasn't the focus of this research in particular. But it's an important part, I think. You are correct.
Oh, Kapai. No, I mean, lots of questions still to be had, and I understand why Hanga Araro is in here, who's, you know, looking at the transformational change in the delivery of those qualifications. I te taha o te tiriti, toi tu te tiriti, and coming in from a tino rangatira tanga base. Rather than, because I keep looking for te rea Weltic and te pukinga he te karauna te rā. You know, and then just looking at, I think if you may have seen the Whatu Ora comment from Pa Mason Dury, if the government can't do it, we'll do it ourselves. You know, koe rā te tino rangatiratanga, and I think that's where our rangatahi are comfortable. They're comfortable with us and not with an outside, or not, they're not outside, they're supposed to be partners. But, and just to consider that in the design of what your delivery is going to look like and who is delivering. Government agencies, wonderful job, they tried, but they weren't us. They weren't their partner. And they weren't the ones who had been through trade training all those years ago and put it together like Te Ara and his dad.
Yeah, and it's fantastic that you say this, Natasha, because our kōrero with Ngāti Toa helmet out there, very similar, Māori for Māori. I tell you, it brought a smile to my face. And it's exactly what you're talking about.
In the findings of the researchers talks about, you know, one of the important things is to give more control to Māori organisations, whether they be iwi organisation, urban Māori organisations, who is the most appropriate one in that takiwa and that rohi to support that akunga. And that's something that I suppose everyone on the call, the beginning of where you're coming from, is how could you apply that principle in the work that you're doing? Because if you do, you're most likely going to achieve better outcomes for the stakeholders you're working with.
Koe rā hoki. You know, I mean, we're actually in the primary industries in aquaculture space. Yeah, and doing exactly what I think we are looking at trying to do. Just that. And the success rate is phenomenal. And then just the celebrating the success, it's more about acknowledgement and recognising their qualifications and who they are in the trades.
Look, I need to send everybody on their way and on of your time today. And I'm so sorry that I'm sure there were other questions. Like I said, please put them in the chat. We will endeavour to return their partner back to you. But I do want to pick up at the back of what Jamie said. I think the call to action here is as part of the approach going forward. We talked about earlier that this is we're part of a wider system, and this is we're taking a systems lens fire. You said earlier, we can't continue to have these kōrero. We have these kōrero because we're looking at events in singular motions, you know, so we need to holistically view this as part of a greater solution. So for us today who have tuned in, we all have a part to play in the system, and we all also have the power to drive that change within our spheres of influence. So it's important, however way that you take this taonga today, and it is a taonga because a whole lot of people, whole lot of whānau have given us this taonga. So in the hope that we do something good with it. As Jamie said, there's still, you know, this mahi sits amongst the mahi in within Concove as we try to address systemic issues. So it isn't just a one-off piece of mahi that will address all. And as Tui said, as the recommendation, he said it nicely. Those recommendations are not operational in one sense. You know, like they all have to go in together for us to make an impactful decision. So I do want to extend a warm, sincere gratitude to you, Jamie, Tui, and also Susan, who's not here, and we wish her, speedy recovery. but also to our very own Kylie, who has, like I said, been journeying with yourselves to shaping this up along the way. Just for all of us too, please, we invite you at Concove here to stay connected to our kaupapa. Jamie has just alluded, this is just but a part of the thread of what are the systemic stuff we need to really attune ourselves to. So we will be looking at more webinars that will reveal this. Also, but please, we've got quite a few projects on our website. Again, some of the questions you might have otherwise thought about, you might find some of the part answers to that in the lineup of the mahi that we've been involved with. But thank you again so much for your time, and we hope to see you again together. So, no reira, ka kite ano, tātou I te koutou katoa. Ngā mihi nui.